Guys, welcome to the Service Without Excuses podcast. We got an awesome guest on today. I really appreciate this. Is very, very relevant today and to what I'm hearing from my clients. This podcast, of course, is sponsored by ProdigyPro.io. That's ProdigyPro.io. It's a one-stop marketing solution for your service business. It's going to be a real game changer. It offers different memberships to our particular service companies out there, and it's really going to be a big game changer for it. So we're super excited to have him on board sponsoring our podcast. Our guest today, his name is Chris Hanna, and I was just honored to be on his podcast too as well. And we talked about a whole bunch of great information. When I went back and looked at it, I was like, wow, I said that. It's pretty cool stuff. Chris is the founder and CEO of Hire4me, Incorporated, a company to help solopreneurs and entrepreneurs help and find and make that critical hire. He has many years of experience as a speaker presenting on topics such as various employee experiences, leadership, and customer experiences at live events, as well as virtual conference. He is also a passionate poker player, which is a true game of strategy. So I can kind of see where some of that goes neck and neck with one another. He also offers leadership course, virtual coaching and consulting through his website, evolvingmanagement.com, helping leaders become more authentic and feel less burnt out and better when working with their teams. You can tune in to Chris. He has his own show called the Chris Hanna Show podcast, which I highly recommend you do. Hear advice interviews from other entrepreneurs and leaders, journeys and lessons helped to find listeners improve the impact and their performance levels and kind of analyze and put some metrics behind it. Chris, welcome to the show, buddy. I appreciate you being here today.
Hey, Rob, I'm so excited to be here and have this conversation today.
Awesome, man. I was jazzed up after our last podcast. So I'm like, we got to do one on mine because I really think our listeners and the people that tend to download and subscribers to our podcast, no matter where it happens to be, have this ongoing problem, and it's hiring. And I'll tell a quick story to our listeners real quick. Last night I was at a technical school helping a friend of mine with his business talk to, the future of people in the plumbing trade and the heating trade, and that they can't find people. People are not coming into that world quick enough in order to sustain the demand. And Chris's company, one of the things they do is hire and find the right candidates for service companies like these that need to get people pretty much in line now, because you can't just put somebody in these trades right out on a job site. They have to go through a whole bunch of different levels and then become certified, a lot of times by the state or by a governing agency. And it's not something you can do overnight. So you have to groom them over time. In the meantime, you still need to find the right candidates in order to keep your company moving forward. So I want to ask Chris to tell our listeners a little bit about himself, other than what I already explained in his bio, that really will help people. And we're going to get into some deliverable, actionable steps that people can do to start finding the right candidates right now. So Chris, feel free. You got the floor, my friend.
So I started Hire4me after spending a lot of time with a ton of business owners, solopreneurs, small business owners who got less than say 10 employees. Kept hearing the same thing over and over again. I wish someone would hire for me. And I was like, why do you guys keep asking that? Why is this such a pain point for you? And I came to realize that a lot of business owners either one, never had the training on how to hire, or they didn't want to go through the process of posting for a job, going through resumes, going through the interview process, or they've done it before and they've been burned. They've hired the wrong person. And I looked at my career and I'm like, over 20 years I've hired, led, and promoted over 500 people across a variety of industries. Like, that's a lot of people. So I've seen a lot of experiences, and I just love interviewing people and I love connecting with them and trying to find talent. And so I thought, well, I think there's something I can do around this. So when I heard it the 3 times in one day, I was like, you know what? I'm going to come home. And I drove back from an event in Cleveland, and I registered the business, created it, got it up and going within 3 days. And I instantly started to pitch it because I realized there's a need here. And that's what every business is all about. How can you actually solve a problem? How can you make it easier for somebody? So I offer this done for you solution where I'm literally trying to hire for them. And it's not about just posting for a role. It's about going out and hunting for that role. I call it poaching. Go poach from other competitors. Promote the role. Advertise the role. Go and assess and bring in the right people. Because far too many people who are hiring, they post and pray. They just post and put it out there, and they hope that they find the right person. And then they're disappointed when they don't get someone. There's a different approach that you need to take, and you need to evolve your approach. Because it's really hard to not only hire people, but to attract them and have them be even interested and know who you are. A lot of people just sit back and they just wait. I think the other piece to what you're talking about when you kind of went to this event is that companies who do have those employees, they also forget that once you hire them, you got to train them and support them and give them the right environment so they want to stay. So as I evolved my business, I realized it has to be about hiring and onboarding support. So I really put the two of them together to make sure that someone is actually set up to win.
I think that onboarding part is so important and it's missed. Even like I just purchased a CRM program. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about. And the reason I got rid of the CRM program is that there was just, you had some intro videos, but I don't come from that. I didn't understand how this thing works. Of course, I failed at that program because they had no orientation. Next company I moved to, we got a nice orientation. We got to get it. In fact, I just invested in their software platform on a major level. So you all know in the service industry that employees are our biggest expense, but our most valuable asset, because without them being able to do the job in the field, that there is no business. You're not going to scale. You're not going to grow. It's just going to be you, yourself, and I on that truck. And, one of the really great things I think about now, people tend to bag on different generations, like they probably did on ours, with the previous generations, about what type of work was that. One of the things that really appeals to me, and I learned this in a meeting yesterday with a client, is that people want purpose. Okay. And I like that personally because I want purpose behind doing something. I don't do this just because there's financial investment involved. In fact, that's probably the farthest thing from it. I do these podcasts in general, or any information, is to help somebody move along in order to get to a level where I'm able to hire them and help them at some point in time. And vice versa for any service company, having the ability to take that person, groom that person, train that person, it's extremely expensive. And if you don't spend the time to really get somebody to believe in your company or the way the company is offering, then they're not going to be a good fit. Like I just said, I wasn't a good fit for this program, but a lot of the people are good fits for the program. But if you do that analytical work ahead of time, you do all the pre-work ahead of time, getting the right candidate in your company, I think would be huge, because again, it's too expensive to lose, and they are our most valuable resource when it comes to our company. Without them doing it and feeling motivated and feeling driven, I don't think they're going to stay at a company. Somebody else is going to dang or put a carrot out in front of them and say, here, come here, I'm going to do better. And 9 out of 10 times that doesn't work. But all we did was miss the boat in the first place.
Well, people can copy your business in any way, right? They can copy your products, your services, but they can't replicate your people. As far as I know, you can't just easily go and clone your best superstar, right? So take care of the people that you have. If you want to retain your staff, you have to invest in them. You have to get to know them and figure out what is their primary motivation for being there, what actually drives them. I think that so many business owners and leaders in general, it doesn't matter where you are in the hierarchy within a company, they're underestimating and undervaluing the importance of a one-on-one conversation to really understand the people that they're working with, to know what actually gets them to show up to work each day, hopefully beyond a paycheck. Because if you're only having people there for just for a paycheck, you're probably in trouble, because more money is what's gonna pull them away. But like, talk about impact. Like, what is that mission? What is that thing that they can rally behind? How do they feel like they're actually contribute? Because I think a lot of people will actually, especially millennials, want to feel like they're in it for something more.
Right.
And I think that people aren't realizing that, and therefore they're losing great talent. And it's too expensive to lose great talent. It costs way more to start from scratch again, and the hiring costs to go in associated with it.
Both from the financial and the emotional side and the tactical side and
the time side.
Yeah, you can't. In the trade, you can't do it. In any business, you can't do it. Even if you don't have a trade business and you got a retail store or a restaurant, and you're going to put people in there to do it. And I see it because we've had I call it the great rehire. Because you go into a store now, and before we had the COVID epidemic that hit the entire world, we had people, you go in, they did the job. You may have one or two that are a little rusty, but generally everybody kind of knew their job. And now at the great rehire, you've had people that they're trying to, in mass amounts, bring people on that may not be the best candidates. You clearly know they're like staring at a ghost. They don't even know what's exactly going on, because they've had to take what they had and try to rehash it from the past and bring in some of those old world things, but understanding that if you had the right candidate walking in the door before somebody that really wasn't a good fit, that you just said, well, listen, I like their attitude. They're pretty good. I'll train them for everything else. Well, that's nice in theory. That's a beautiful thing in the world to say they have a great attitude. A great attitude does not mean you're going to be a great employee. That employee might have the great attitude from the day they come in the door till the day they may leave the door because they're not able to do the job right. Having companies or having some type of precursor, pre-work done, or some type of analytics ahead of time to know, well, this person worked in this trade, or this person has this type of personality, and they may work very well within your company, within the offering you have out there.
Well, I'll tell you a story. So, like a number of years back, I was in the corporate world and I was managing contact center teams. And I took on this new team, and it was a really technical team. And we had lost some real strong players, people who've been around for a while. And I realized we're in a tough spot here because we're losing institutional knowledge. We're losing those people who know what's going on. So to have people who leave who've got years of experience or know the in and outs of whether it's the software that we're using or some of the tools and the processes, it absolutely puts you behind. And it's hard to recover from that. So therefore, you have to find a way to keep people for the long term. Yes, you're gonna have people that are gonna come and go, right? Like, yeah, you have a mix in every company. You're gonna have people in it for the long haul for a career, and some people are gonna be in it for a job. So you have to build a mix. I'm a big sports guy. Like it's like when you're building a team, you got to have a mix of different players that have different skill sets that complement one another. That's where, like, when you talk about analytics, like looking at like what are the strengths and talents that people have and putting them in the right spot, but like build a team that can still survive if somebody happens to leave, whether you're asking them to leave or they leave on their own is critical and important. That's the only way you're going to have that stability in your business.
You just bring up a very valid point, a super valid point, beyond probably what you're even thinking. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. Sports teams. You can get the greatest athletes on a team and they suck. It doesn't matter. You have to have a blend of one person's talent, blend with another person's talent, along with personalities. No, you can have the best players on the team. And if that was the case, the New York Yankees would have always won the World Series because they always typically had the best group of talent. They paid for it. They spent all the money. They did all the metrics. They had, Cashman in there looking at all and analyzing all those reasons. And he's a true genius. And Brian is unbelievable. But you look at this at the aspect that if that was the case, New York Yankees would have won the World Series every single year. But of course, that doesn't happen because other teams realize, yes, we don't have all these hot shot lineup players that are the highest paid and the best at what they do. But this person works better with this person. This particular right fielder works better with the pitcher, or vice versa. They work well as a team. They work as a collective. There is no one team at all. And I think the team atmosphere and having the right mold of fit for a company, having companies like yourself come in and say, I think this person would be the right candidate for your company based on the information. I know this person came out of college and graduated with the top of the class and they, have all these things. I understand that, but I don't think they're going to be a right fit for you because they have another agenda. They have other hangups. They have other things in advance that will actually probably hurt you in the end. And unfortunately, you're going to trade that person. And again, in the NFL, there's been some phenomenal players that continue to get traded because they just don't have the personality to work with the other people on the team.
The teams that win in sports and in business are the ones who execute the fundamentals well. You can have all the best players in the world. Like you say, you talk about the Yankees. I'll talk about from a hockey perspective because I'm a Canadian guy, right? Like hockey, you can have the best hockey players and the team just doesn't click. But it's the ones who kind of come together as a unit and execute those fundamentals that are going to ultimately achieve the victory. When I go in and I consult for businesses, I say, I don't want to just talk to the business owner. I want to talk to all the employees or the teams that are in the area that I'm focusing on. And then we can see, is somebody the right fit? I've given recommendations, say this person might need to come out and move to a different role because they're miscast as part of maybe that. And even though I'm maybe looking at like the technology, the process side, I still have to incorporate the people side into it because the people are that unknown variable that can really shift whether something's successful or not. So I'm always suggesting changes to culture, to roles, responsibilities, and even trying to get as simple as like breaking apart certain roles that some people are just set up to fail too, because some people just have too much stuff pushed on them.
Right. That you make a very valid point. It's you become too much pressure on one particular person to hang and carry the team. New York Yankees, and I'm a big hockey fan too as well. Pittsburgh Penguins in precise, but I'll use that as an example. Sidney Crosby, what did he say? Eyes are for sight, vision is for the mind. And it's so true that somebody's vision for where they want to be has to be decided on the mental strategies that they put together to make something grow, something develop, where the other is just a quick, in the blink of an eye, just makes a quick change. And the Yankees, people always talk about Aaron Judge. He's the greatest. He's the greatest. Aaron Judge wouldn't have got there. Tom Brady wouldn't have gotten there without all of those team members in place that worked well with them. And if there wasn't a good team member on it, they changed him out. And people have often said, I'm sure we've both heard this, man, why did they get rid of him? Why did they trade them? Well, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. We can speculate what probably gets leaked out, but generally most of the stuff doesn't. There's a reason that person, no matter how talented they are, gets traded. They feel they're going to be a better person. And Christian McCaffrey was a great example of that, going from Carolina and then moving over. It's when he moved to this team, he was great on Carolina. He's phenomenal now, with his team and being able to produce what they are able to do. He became a better fit for somebody else, which actually only boosted the ability that we see of his talent and his level of skill of being one of the best players, not the best player to play that position of all time. So you're dead on to something there, man, when it comes to the right people in the right situation.
I think it's an undocumented expectation that really should exist for every business owner and leader on a team to be really like a talent scout, to assess their people, to figure out what situation can I put them in, can be on the right team, the right role, the right project, so that they can win. That is really what our job is. And yes, like there's the vision aspect of it, of trying to run a business, right? You need to have a vision also for your people to help them see how they can win. Get obstacles out of their way, make their life easier. I don't think enough people realize that undocumented expectation exists.
That's a great point. I don't want to say boom, that's a game changer, but I'm going to stop this one right here during the podcast and really have that thing stick out. And there's a ton of great information here, guys, you're listening to. This is the biggest variable to service-based businesses. And again, I'm not talking trades. Of course, I understand the trade side of it because it's more, but you're talking restaurants, you're talking real estate professionals. I have a client right now that owns a real estate office, and what we were talking about before. And their problem is they cannot hire real estate agents quick enough. Even now in a down market where the interest rates are super high in the United States, and they can't find the right people to develop, because in that business, develop a good real estate agent takes time. The ones that don't spend the time, that are part-time people, that don't really they're not, as you say in your words, your famous words, all in and what they're doing. They're not succeeding because they have too many distractions going different area. So when they're hiring somebody for a real estate agent and bringing them so they can get licensed and they can get, move forward with their career, they need to find the right person that is, as again, you say, all in and can be committed to what needs to happen. Now that person may move to another firm at some point. It's possible, but the likelihood of them doing that is very small if they are cultivated correctly, picked and put into the right organization. So one of the things I want to ask of you is, service business, the trades, understand different service businesses beyond that. What are some of the key KPIs? What are some of the real indicators people can look for before they talk? And of course, I am going to make a complete push. I don't normally do this to a company like Chris's, where they can put this all together for you. Because guys, I thought I mastered interviewing. I thought I got the right person. I thought I'd go through step 1, step 2, then 3. You bring them out in the field, see how they work. And if they're right candidate, you go from there. And I'm going to tell you, that doesn't work today. It's something we used to do in the past. We have to get them in the door right. It's often been said that people come into an organization because mom and dad raised them right, or they learned something right and they had the right mindset and they had the right ability to adapt and work as a team, work with others, versus just being a superstar. Even if they're the best of the best at what they're at, they're not the right person, as we just discussed, for other people. So Chris, what do you think are some key things that people can look for before reaching out to a firm like yourself or someone else, or if they try to go it on their own, that's fine too as well. I don't think that's the best way to do it today. And I'm speaking completely jaded here because I've learned it through my own personal experience with my own service company. What are some of those key indicators they can look for?
Well, I think people first need to ask themselves, are they ready in a position to hire first? Which is a tough question to ask yourself. Are you ready to hire? So do you have the financial stability to actually bring somebody on? Do you actually have a good sense to know, where are the gaps in my business that I need to fill? Because a lot of people think that they might need to hire someone who's maybe like a sales expert, but maybe they actually need to bring somebody in who's more marketing based, right? As
Right.
an example, or they're looking for someone from the ops side. I think as you're going through that process, so figure out, are you ready to hire? That's one. Two, the other thing that's really critical and I think just really important is that you are documenting what I say is called the must have criteria. What are the things that are non negotiables for someone to be in your business, to decide that they are someone that you want to be able to work with, that you can invest in, like the things that you will not compromise on? Because so many people, when they go through the hiring process, they compromise out of desperation. They sometimes bring someone in because they're a body that they fill a gap and they breathe, right? But you have to sit there and figure out what are those things that I'm just not going to compromise on that someone needs to be able to have. Once you go through that interview process, then you're trying to assess, do they have the right skills, do they the experiences that meet up with those must-have criteria? But more importantly than anything else, are they a culture fit for you?
Mm,
Do they fit for your business?
right.
Right? Your leadership style, the culture that you're trying to have, the core values. I always say every company should have core values that help inform their decisions of whether they hire, fire, do whatever it's going to be as well. Like I think back to when you were talking about, some of the struggles that people are having with like trades or like maybe in a real estate, firm of some sort. When the people are trying to hire, they have to realize it's like investing. You diversify your options. Don't just go, and this is the opposite of me. Don't just go all in on one method to try and find someone. Don't go to one source. Like if you're just only going to focus on, say, going to schools to try and, bring in people, that's not going to help you either. You got to go and look at your competitors. Can you get somebody and entice them to come from a competitor that you have to kind of pull into your business? Could you go establish a relationship with some schools? Could you go and post in other cities and other areas? Can you leverage social media or video or stuff in some different way as well? You have to try different tactics. And I think this is where a lot of people struggle when they're hiring because they're just going all in on one way to do it. You do have to switch it up and realize it's a multi-pronged approach that's going to get you successful.
Right. And people tend to get blinders. I mean, I like to try to say I'm an uber focused person. I focus on this, I focus this, and people say I multitask, I do multiple things. It's been proven multitasking. I wrote something about it, isn't very effective. They've proven it that when you split your brain too many different ways, you're not very good at it. But at the same time, and I just read this off of a colleague of ours, poster blog just the other day, and people are literally walking over the dimes to get to the pennies, and we'll call them future prospects in our business, future employees, future associates of our company. They're walking over the dimes that might be the best asset to the business just to get to the pennies. So, Chris, how can people find out more about you and really fine tune? Of course, I'm going to put links to your company in the bio and different information too as well. But what's the best way they can really contact you? And do you have any final thoughts you'd like to leave our listeners before we move on?
Sure. So if you're interested in learning more about the hiring and the onboarding side, you can visit hire4me.ca. Hire four is the number four in the middle there with it. You can also go to Chrishanna.ca. There, I talk about the speaking that I do, my all-in consulting and deep dives that I offer, the Chris Hanna Show, my podcast, every single offer, because I call myself the all-in solopreneur. I have multiple income streams that I really focus on that can help me, not only just myself, but also the customers that I work with, the entrepreneurs that I work with, grow overall and then scale their businesses. So, if you ask about final thoughts, I think I'll use the term all in that anything that you do in your life, your business, your career, it's going to start with you going all in on yourself first. Because the best investment you're ever going to make is in yourself. It's going to be in your mindset so you can actually have the right focus, the right vision, the right ability to truly be successful. And I define success as being fulfilled. So if you go all in on you, you'll be more fulfilled as a result. You'll have a bigger impact.
And you're also betting on yourself. And more people need to have confidence in betting on yourself. The superstars have no problem betting on themselves. However, there's no lack of superstars or true leaders out there. Nobody's racing to that particular road. So listen to what Chris said about that. You need to believe in yourself and the capabilities you have in yourself. I often say we go to a casino and you're talking about you being a poker player. I don't gamble. I don't gamble because I spend more than enough gambling on myself. and the business interest I put into. So I do bet on myself, and I suggest other people do the same. Again, if you want to get a hold of Chris, feel free. You'll see the links in the show notes, and of course on my blogs and stuff like that as well. But Chris, I truly appreciate it. It's been an honor having you on here today. I think your information has been invaluable to our listeners and to future listeners that are going to really be able to find the right people for the right job and the right situation that is a win-win for both sides. And I can't thank you enough for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on the show, Rob. I really appreciate it and everything that you do and the support as well. It's fantastic. So thank you.